open the meeting, call the meeting to order. Do we have a confirmation on that?
Yep, sorry, all good.
Okay. I have a copy of the agenda here. The first is first thing on the agenda is always the public comment. Jacqueline, is there anyone on that would like, and would they like to make a public comment?
We have 4 people on. I don't see any hands raised. If we want to just give them a few seconds, if you want to comment, just raise your hand. All right, not seeing anybody raising their hand.
Okay. The second item on the agenda is an approval of minutes. And I guess the chair would like to make a motion to approve the minutes, and I would like to start the discussion and ask, does anybody have any changes or any comments or any edits to the minutes?
I have one,
Go ahead, Ann.
in item 2A, to change the word in the last sentence from retrain to restrain.
Okay. Did you get that, Jacqueline?
Yes, thank you.
Any other? I have a comment on an edit in line 6. Or item 6. Joe Ballantyne noted, and from there I'd like to insert the exterior lighting and security cameras have been installed on the building, and delete just the short phrase lights and camera. So I want to emphasize that this is exterior lighting, that we don't have a camera on the inside, and there's no additional lighting on the inside.
Okay, thank you. Got it.
And the last line there, we'll warn visitors of this and recommend wearing masks, period. And strike the, if someone is sensitive to that type of thing.
All right, thank you.
Any comments on those changes? Any other changes? All in favor of approving the minutes?
I'll second the motion.
Okay. Second the motion. All in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous? Three on the agenda is to discuss the architect RFP results and evaluation forms. And I guess I'd like to turn the meeting over to Mark and take it, if you could lead us through the evaluation forms.
Sure. Good evening, Joe and committee members. So you've all obviously had a chance to review the 10 submissions that came in. That's about what I thought we would see from the firms. I think we had about 14 or 15 or so that came to the pre-proposal walkthrough. 10 submitted qualifications and proposals. And I would say 4 are firms that we typically see for this type of work. So it was a good submission, good cross of firms that do a lot of this work around here, and as well as other firms that may not have the same level of experience, but worth pursuing. Again, it just speaks to the attractiveness of this type of a project in this community. Fortunately, you were all able to get me your scores in advance. Before we get into that, I wanted to just bring up and highlight. So let me share my screen if I can. The qualification analysis that was compiled by our office and submitted to you all, I think, Friday. And this basically takes all of the information that was shared in the qualification packages and broken down per firm. So, and I know in certain order, Lothrop Associates, I highlighted in orange, community center projects. And, so you're all able to use this as a guide towards reviewing the qualification packages themselves. So you can see Lothrop had a couple, that were relevant from my perspective. Greg Wiesen Gardner, didn't have any that jumped out. Russell and Dawson had one community center project.
This was really helpful, Mark. I actually had done this ahead of time without that.
Yeah.
And then I went back and I used that kind of and looked at what I had done. It was a good like check of the
Yeah.
notes I had checking off of what was there.
Yeah, I listen, I
Rondo.
you what?
I didn't see it.
Oh,
That's why I struggled so bad.
sorry.
It's not your
Um,
fault.
Yeah, those booklets are a lot to go through, and I get it, and I appreciate you taking time out of your busy calendars to go through all of that. But yeah, this is a way to just sort of compile it in one single document. Bargman, Hendry, had quite a bit actually for a firm I had not seen around too much. Tecton had decent experience, couple of experiences. GWWO had one. Newman didn't really have a lot. QA&M had a lot. Like a lot.
I thought that was what was really good with a lot of the submissions did too. The architects who they chose or the project managers, they basically took the ones that had historical community center, senior center experience and used those resumes with their companies. They did a really good job,
Yeah,
most of them with that.
And they, seems like they understood the project.
They did, right.
Yeah.
And they took the time to understand it and did a thoughtful approach and
I agree.
Ronette Riley had one experience, and Silver Petroselli had a decent experience as well. So again, it gave you community center experience, the dollar value, the type of work, contact information. So again, hopefully this was helpful. If you didn't get a chance to see it, I'm sorry. Might have made your life a little bit easier.
Speed reading there.
So again, the nice thing is that you've got a bunch of firms that have a lot of decent, relevant experience, all competing for this opportunity. Any questions about anything in just the general qualification information? Okay. We then took the document that we had shared, and based upon reviewer 1 through 7, you were all able to review the information, and you sent me the values of each of the firms. So alphabetically, BH plus A is up top, GWG, KMA second, all the way down through QA&M and Silver Petroselli and Tecton. I then simply went and plugged in the value that you submitted to me. For experience, it was basically 0 to 30. For past performance, 0 to 25. Organization team structure, 0 to 15. Approach, 0 to 15. I then did handle the fees and the contract. And to just talk about those two for a minute, starting with the contract. So we submitted as part of the RFP, a standard agreement, not standard, but an agreement between the town and the firm. And we basically said, this is the agreement. Hopefully you're okay with it. If anybody was going to have any comments to the contract, they would have submitted them with a proposal. Only one firm made reference to having standard terms and conditions. Everybody else accepted the agreement, so they all received 5s. A couple of you actually did provide a scoring, so I left those in here. So reviewers 6 and 7 actually provided a score, but I left them in there because you submitted those, and I wasn't going to change them. But that was just my, my handling of the contract comments, because everybody else stayed silent on that, which made some sense.
So Mark, what are the numbers and the fees for services? What do those numbers mean? What do they represent?
So I will get to that,
Okay.
Eileen, in a moment. Again, so everybody received a score. In green, the score in yellow represents the average of of all of the submitted scores. And that again carried from, and really everybody kind of focused on experience, past performance, organization, team structure, and approach to the work.
What's the orange color?
So the orange one, I just highlighted because it just seemed like there was kind of an outlier. Reviewer 6 was really hard on some of these, and I want to make sure that there wasn't a misunderstanding of either the scoring or the content. So for example, you know, for Lathrop, you know, you had 30, 10, 20, 20, 28, 23, and then 5. I just want to make sure that there wasn't a, you know, again, I'm not changing it, but, you know, part of the reason we're meeting today is that we need to change anything we can, because then it will affect the overall numbers. There were a few more, like Silver Petrocelli by reviewer 6 received a really low number when it came to experience. Again, you know, these are all relatively subjective discussions, so I'm not going to say you're wrong, but everybody else gave them a 20 to a 30. And if you look at their qualification submission, you know, they had, you know, a decent amount of experience. Same thing with performance and organization and approach. I just wanted to make sure that reviewer 6 didn't want to, then again, you don't have to change. You know, it's anonymous, it is what it is, but I thought those were outliers and I just wanted to highlight those.
Maybe one thing that you could speak to, quite a few of these firms do a lot of studies for towns, for community centers. How much effort and focus do they put into that?
A lot.
A lot. So if they're doing a lot of studies, then they're actually
Yeah.
doing a lot of.
That's actually, that's a heavy lift,
Which
actually.
is good, because a lot of them
Yeah.
have a lot of studies, even though they may have not been the architect to construct one, they submitted on quite a few.
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to confirm that.
Yeah, you can make an argument, and I have, that's 90% of the effort is the study, getting to a point where you have a project that you get in front of a community to vote for referendum.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah,
Because maybe that would help the person who had the outlier, you know, if they thought maybe
Yeah.
that they hadn't actually performed construction or architect, but had done studies, that they didn't count that.
Is there a way to quantify that? You know, what percentage of a preliminary design is the study?
what percentage of preliminary design is the study? A fair amount. I mean, if you think about, if I think about what went on just for this particular project, the firm that did the study for this particular project, a lot went into it. That doesn't mean that they should get the job or will be automatically handed the job. But to get to a point where you're coming up with concepts and budgets and information to share with the public to get them to vote yes. I mean, if you saw any of the graphics during the course of that period, a lot of work and effort goes into generating that exercise, some programming meetings, meeting with the end users, determining how much space is needed. Again, you don't get into design necessarily, but you're coming up with a lot of, meaty information that will eventually get turned over to whatever firm is ultimately hired, and then they'll come up with their own concepts. But yeah, a decent amount goes into that. Again, you're not guaranteed to get the job, and but that still doesn't mean that you're not putting in a lot of effort to get to that. And if you're hired generally to do studies, you've got a decent amount of community, because you're not going to come up with a study for a community center if you haven't had a decent amount of community center experience. I mean, I wouldn't hire anybody to design my house if you haven't designed a house. It's a good way to look at it.
Back to contract comments real quick.
Yeah.
So I did not read the email that said, don't worry about that column.
That's okay.
So I misunderstood, I think, what you said earlier, back to terms and conditions and everything else. So what is the process for you could take my scores and make a match with the other ones, just for point of clarification.
So if you want to just take your sheet and just write in the number that you want, or take them out and I'll change it. or just circle the reviewer that you are, so it stays anonymous, and this pass along to me, I'll change it when I stop sharing. And the same thing with anybody else that wants to change any of their numbers. Those online, you can email me and I'll make any changes. Then once we're all set, we can again, make any of those adjustments.
Are we trying to do that in real time tonight,
Yes,
iterate through it?
yes. Ideally, AJ, we're going through this. Eventually, this document, the one that I'm showing, will show scores, and you'll be able to see 1 to 10.
Yeah.
Based upon all of the evaluations.
You mean like a ranking?
Ranking. Yes.
So what point do we want to go over what the ranking is now? Do we wait? See kind of where we're at?
Yeah.
Yeah, why don't we wait? Because
Because there's outliers that are the other direction too, right? Some numbers are much higher than what the majority of the reviewers had too. So I don't really think we
Well-
have to probably get into that if it's not.
let me just go through,
Oh,
Dave,
yeah,
and just
more?
finish this. And then I
Sorry.
think what we should do, Joe, is just open it up for just general discussion about, we can go down from B to T. And if anybody has any thoughts, notes, comments, or anything you want to share for any of these firms, it's good to have an open dialogue about it.
Sure, yeah, sure.
So, so we've talked about everything with the exception of fees, and how we came up with the fee value is we took the fees that were submitted and we included them in a document that is this essentially. And every firm, their fee was noted by their by their name. The low fee received the highest score. Okay, so the maximum value was 10 points. Every fee that was higher than the low, it was weighted to reflect, the higher fee. So you could see Silver Petrocelli was the low. They received the highest score. Next low was Russell Dawson. Next low, I think, was QA&M. Then it went to Tecton, GWWO, GWG, Kama, then Ronette Riley. So all I did was I took that equivalent score, the 4.29, the 7.78, and I simply added it to this document right here across the board for everybody. So that's why the 4.5 is the average is 4.5, 5.1 and 5.1. So I just simply transferred that value over to this document. And now that's part of the overall math from a ranking perspective.
Can I ask one question about that?
Mhm.
The QA&M proposal is low compared to quite a few of the others, but I think we have to remember that they were already paid for their services to date, right? So they're ahead of the ballgame.
Yeah, they
Oh,
weren't
so-
the low fee. They
No, but I'm saying, but they're lower
But
than.
you'd expect them to be even lower than this, I think.
Right, because I would expect them to be. Do we know how much they have been paid to date for services?
It wasn't as much as you think.
No, I don't, I'm
yeah.
not thinking anything.
And honestly, less than $10,000.
They were paid less than $10,000 for what they've done to date for all their,
Yes.
okay?
And there was, from what I understand, there wasn't, there was no funding for some of the work that was going on. So it was pre the referendum, so it was all coming out of the town budget. So it was difficult to get money at that time.
So then the next question in my mind is, did they then do this deep dig, this big heavy lift that you're talking about that you would expect?
They did.
did all of that, but they
They
didn't.
did. I mean, honestly, we weren't paid a lot either. A lot of times, and for those of you that are in this industry, to do study work, generally you're not making any money. You're getting something, but generally not a lot. But you're still putting in the same level of effort. And you hope that if the project passes, that, you know, we're at the table and
Give you like.
others are at the table.
Okay.
It's a risk.
Yeah.
By every firm that does it, trust me. Sometimes it works out, and sometimes it doesn't. And it's not to say, by the way, that they're not going to, if they were to be selected, that they still wouldn't go through the process of meeting and confirming. There's, it's not like they just move right to the next phase.
Right.
Well,
Still will be-
that wasn't my point.
Yeah. They just know more about the building and the program than anybody else,
Except for you.
except for So that's the form. So why don't we just go down now, and I don't know, do people have notes? Do they have thoughts, recollections on the firms that were, I'm gonna bring up this other document and just talk, and we'll go alphabetically. So BH plus A.
I mean, if our scores are all fairly consistent, is that, how much value do we get out of it?
Yeah, I mean, again, they were.
Shortlisted right off the bat? Can we just shortlist? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
If we're looking at, you know, 10 and 11s versus 5s and 6s, can we just eliminate 50% of the discussion up front?
I would rather go through and see the final numbers and then go through, but.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Can we look at the final numbers?
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Why discuss everybody if they're the
Yeah,
top
he's-
50%?
he's
Yeah,
got a
like
good
what's
point,
BHNA's final number? Like,
Right.
Compared
What's the
to other,
ranking?
yeah, right.
what's their final rank? actually?
Okay.
Should we rank these and see who are the top?
So here's the rankings based upon all the information with no changes to what was submitted.
Yeah. I mean,
Can you guys see that?
Zoom in a little?
Can you say, yeah.
Is it ranked by firm name?
Oh, it's alphabetical. Yeah.
It's
It's
alphabetical.
still alphabetical, okay.
Yeah.
Can you just, so they're number 2?
And that's including
Oh, I
the,
see,
right.
too.
it's including.
On the far
fees
right.
and everything.
That includes fees, that includes contract comments, that includes everything. So they scored 76.21, which is the second highest rated firm. GWG Camera ranked 8th. GWWO ranked 4th. Lothrop ranked 6th. Newman ranked 7th. QA&M ranked 1. Ronette Riley ranked 9th. Russell Dawson ranked 10th. Silver Petroselli 5. And Tecton 3.
That aligns with my top four personally.
Close.
so.
Yeah.
Yeah, 3 and 4 are really close.
Okay, knowing that, why don't we start at the top alphabetically again? And we don't have to belabor BH&A, but we should be able to, make some comment.
I mean, I feel like the bottom ones too, we could probably.
No, I didn't just.
I think the discussions have to be like at 3, 4, 5, 6 or something like
I
that.
think we get to 4, 5, 6. And so you're close.
Yeah.
Probably.
So, I mean, can we decide on 1 and 2 or 2 and 1?
Yeah. I think we're good.
Even,
Oh, I don't know,
even
Mark, what do you
BH&A,
think?
I mean, we shouldn't just not comment on them at all. I mean, if
Oof.
somebody has some positive comments, we should do it because they weren't ranked number 1 by everybody.
The thing that I really liked about the H&A is, from what I read, I believe they did 2 old schools that they converted. To one in Maine, I think, and one down in.
And one on Saturday, Cape.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I saw that when I was there this summer, and we were with friends, and they said, oh, we should go to the community center, because now I wish I had gone.
I mean, going on their websites, there were a lot of information, especially the Kittery one. They had a lot of photos and it looks nice.
Yeah, I thought they looked, I really liked what I saw.
I felt they had a good
If
breath.
there was anything that they didn't have, a lot of their work was in Massachusetts. But they had work in Madison, the Bradley in Madison. I don't know if you recognize that. That's the one on Bradley. And also the Hammonasset the West Beach.
Right.
So they're,
And I thought that
well,
was a
a lot of
positive.
the work was outside. They worked right here in
Work
Washington.
in town, right?
Yeah.
They'd work with town officials here.
Right.
Yeah, I thought they were very strong. I thought overall, I think they came up on my ranking as the number 2 as well. So I thought that was a positive.
The only thing for me, there were a couple unknowns with their subs, with their structural people and stuff, because they're from out of state. That's the only thing. That's the only reason why I think I give them a little lower score on their organization team structure than maybe some of the others was on that.
They fell
But
into,
strong.
they fell into the middle for me for the same reason. Good breadth and depth of experience, probably could do it, but being so far out of state, with a lot of their subs being out of state, I put that as a caveat. And their current workload majority was out of Connecticut. So, again, I thought they definitely could do the job, but I put them in the middle.
GWG Gamma?
I think Ann had a comment.
Oh, you had one other comment on BHG? Oh,
I just, BHA, I was just, wanting to sort of add on to the comment about them being Boston-based and then how much are we going to have to incur in travel costs for them to come here?
Well, if I can add commentary to this discussion, COVID has taught us a lot of things, one of which you can work remote, and we do work with firms in Atlanta, in Connecticut, and
Yeah.
Atlanta, DC, Boston, New York City. It's not like it used to be, and even when you're in construction, when you need the design team to be on site weekly, a Boston-based firm can easily get to Madison. It's a 3-hour commute, 2.5-hour commute. I'm not sure what it is, but it's one that they need to be here. When they need to be here, they'll be here.
I can tell you it's easier to commute from Boston to Madison than it is from Madison to Boston, having had to do it several times for work. So if they're coming in the morning, they're going against the traffic and vice versa. And I would assume that would be part of their fee, correct?
What's that?
The commute expense?
I've got to check, Joan, to see if we required reimbursable expenses to be part of the fee.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the fees were inclusive of reimbursable expenses.
Oh, really?
Because I remember they were for us, not that we have a lot, but there definitely was that caveat.
I also thought BHA had some creative ideas about subdividing space. They had mentioned some being able to subdivide the gym and stuff. And one of the pictures had a maker space, which was totally left field for me. And I was like, that's such a cool idea. So they seem like a firm that's got a lot of creativity about community centers and some unique things that perspective they can bring about.
I think they were the ones that were proposing like a management plan or an overall plan, right, for the next 40 years or something. They had some sort of,
Yeah, like about fees and stuff, like actually running the place.
Yeah, exactly. They were looking, right, at revenue.
Yeah, that's where some of those things, people would pay subscriptions to join those services. Which is kind of, it was kind of a cool idea.
And I think too, their project manager they proposed has a degree like architectural history from Cornell. So I think like we were saying before, some of them did a really good job of putting together a team. I think they did.
Yeah, sure.
So I'm sorry, fees did include reimbursable expenses, so travel is built into their fees.
Okay.
Okay, move on to GWG CAMA. Again, they rank lower on the experience slide or side, lower on the past performance, middle of the road for team structure. Okay for
maybe you could
approach.
speak to something that I feel like I hammered them pretty hard on, was they didn't have a lot of in-house staff. And they were relying on subs a lot to do a lot of the work for them. So even the visualization stuff. So I remember they had subs for stuff that some of the other firms didn't. Maybe that I shouldn't have hammered them for that. I don't know if is it a detriment for a firm to be utilizing a lot of subs versus one that's got more staff that works in-house closely together?
It's definitely better when they're more in-house.
Okay.
Because there are less agreements, less arguments over services.
Less
Um,
coordination.
So
Well, there's still the same amount of
No,
coordination.
I'm saying, but there's more.
who's responsible for what,
Yeah.
that sort of thing.
You know, it's easy for me to get up and go into that office next door to say, hey, did you get this change that came from the building versus a phone call or an email or a meeting. So, yeah, it's acceptable and normal to look more favorably on services that are in-house versus, you know, consultants. I mean, generally speaking, most of these firms will have consultants for mechanical, electrical, plumbing design.
Yeah.
Standard, structural engineering, standard, landscape. You know, so but you know, architecture, interior design, furniture, fixtures and equipment. Ideally, those are in-house. Code consultant, sustainability consultant, you know, those are in-house. It just makes it easier.
Okay, thank you.
And I think to that point too, though, I did look at their teams in that light, because when it got down to subs, probably 50% of them all use some of the same MEP.
Oh,
yeah.
They're using all the same subs.
Yeah.
You know, so you really do need to look at their internal team.
Like, the only thing I gave props for was their New Haven-based company. So
Again, two pluses
they don't
for
get,
local
they don't get much more local than that.
Or
Yeah,
for
well,
Madison.
lives in Madison.
We did, there is a wide range of scoring though on the experience from that, probably more than others.
Where I gauge them though, is that their experience is much larger projects than ours. I think they're very capable firm. They're, you know, you're talking, I think it was college universities, big buildings, things like that, much larger scale than a community center.
Did they have a lot of communities that I haven't heard that they didn't have any community
Yeah.
centers?
Very light.
That's what I.
That's-
Buildings.
Yeah.
And they had a theater, they did a lot more theater, but no community center. I also did not like the fact that, I felt like when I read their narrative about their approach, it talked a lot about all the things they wouldn't be able to do because of funding. You know, if we wanted to enhance the gym or enhance the theater or do the kitchen, they said additional funding would be needed. Not, I just felt like that was a weird thing to focus on.
That goes wrong, yeah, used to doing a bigger for
Project.
$50 million project as opposed to a $15 million. project.
Right. I mean, the places that their representation, you know, I was just at the New Haven Lawn Club for a chamber event, and it is beautiful. The renovation was amazing. But like you said, they seem to be really much more on the bigger sizes. There's a lot of apartment buildings. There's a large theater. Yeah, that's why I think I was a little less as far as similar size and scopes. Not as low as others, but in my scheming.
There were two things they called out that I really appreciated. One was they were thinking a little outside of the box, suggesting relocating youth and family services because they anticipated a parking problem for this, and they were really looking at the whole space instead of just sort of narrowly focusing. And they also talked about using this as an anchor to sort of bookend the town. I thought they really picked up well on that, which others didn't necessarily see this as a holistic town project. They saw it as they really looked at it in a much broader way, which I appreciated. So, and that probably speaks to their larger project experience of thinking about things in a bigger way. So,
Examining this as a phase, much larger vision.
yeah, exactly.
And then their vision of blurring the inside and the outside and making it a true like center of community. I mean, that's one thing that did stand out as a positive.
Yeah.
Yep.
However, in the middle of my review, I asked sort of just a general question. Does this town have construction standards or specifications?
I don't think so, but they have I mean, there's obviously high quality standards, but I don't think they have.
Besides code compliance.
Yeah, obviously, but
Surfaces and fixtures.
yeah, I don't think they have a standard fixture type or,
Well,
control.
actually, the planning and zoning has there's a committee called ACA, and that is kind of the committee that will review anything that's on the outside of the building and verify and approve any kind of outside structure. The inside, not so much. It's more the look from the outside. So they have to be in compliance, and ACCA's had people change light fixtures on buildings that have been renovated. Both,
Exterior, right?
yeah, the outdoor lights, so they're like, no, we don't like that light fixture. I think you should go with something like this. And so they can be very specific. I haven't heard too much about them since being off the Board of Selectmen, but when I was on the Board of Selectmen, there were, there are high standards there, so.
Okay. Move on to GWWO.
Like you said, they're fourth, is that right?
GWWO is, yep, they're fourth.
Can you just read them right down so we can get them right down?
Ready to do it again?
Just right from the top, just if you just read them,
Okay, BH plus A is 2.
okay?
GWG came out as 8. GWWO is 4. Lothrop is 6. Newman is 7. QA&M 1. Ronette Riley 9. Russell Dawson 10. Silver Petroselli 5. And Tecton 3.
Thank you.
GWWO, any thoughts, reactions to that group worth noting?
I love their creativity. I like the idea that they switch things around and have the opening in the front of the building.
Me too.
I would love to see that front entrance be able to be used. And I love the idea of putting, some kind of a decking out there with ramps so that you could, actually, that would be handicap accessible. I thought that was pretty cool. I liked it. And I thought the drawing, the picture they did of the inside, having that all open was really pretty. I mean, it may not be realistic, but I liked the idea that we're thinking differently than already putting that elevator in that one spot, and that's our opening.
Yeah, I awarded points for the people to be creative beyond the box of what was originally proposed. And that was one of I thought the more creative things to do, and to actually have the entrance from the front of the building and make that space that we're designating a theater really to be an open, a reception area, in addition to being able to have some meetings in there or theater work. I thought it was a great, I like them too.
Well, that's more to the approach to the work, right?
Mhm.
And everybody was pretty similar. I think we maybe should have a quick discussion on the experience. So we seem to have some wide range of scoring on the experience. Especially if you get down to, if there are 4 and there's 5 and there's 6, and they're really close.
So
I just didn't see the experience level being the same as QA&M or B&H or a couple others. I noticed there's a couple of 30s on there, which means that they would have the same experience as QA&M, and I didn't see that from their proposal.
So right now they're 4, right? And right, Dave, I mean,
Yeah.
if you look at what they submitted for experience, it's all Baltimore. Department of Recs and Parks. They had,
Can you just pull would you mind just
Yeah.
putting your sheet on the screen and just give me a quick look at what they had? Maybe I missed something.
They had a lot of community center work, but it was all in Baltimore.
no, it's not even a lot of community center
It's
work.
not,
No, they did a lot of, it's a lot of piecemeal stuff too. If you look exactly what they designed.
So this is what so they listed this church community center, but it was a bathhouse
Right, yeah.
for 16. Maybe not.
Remember, it's did a lot of church work, they've
the
done
rec
municipal
center.
work.
It's all for
Yeah.
that agency.
The rec center for 16 million.
Yes.
The community rec center was for 4 million in 2016. Fitness and wellness center, rec center, and rec center.
Yeah, that's what I was mixing in my,
So the focus being on the athletic component. So
Yes.
Mhm.
And so for me, they lost points on lack of community center experience and significant workload outside of Connecticut.
Yeah.
They did a lot of YMCA work though, right?
Well, the other thing too
Very
is,
similar, kind of.
the way I looked at it too, for experience,
Can be.
we're
That's what we want.
renovating an
Yeah.
existing building that has some historical value. A lot of
Right.
these were renovations of an existing building. You know, I don't think renovating this room is the same as renovating, the academy school, but that's just
Right.
me.
and then in Summers, they did a conceptual design, I think, I can't remember what that was, Summers, Connecticut. Can't remember the details on that, I have a note down that they did a conceptual design on a community center in Summers.
Joe, do you have the booklet there?
I'm looking at the
Yes, which
PDF.
one?
Oh, okay, got it.
Yeah, I have it if you.
For GWWO.
But you have them there.
Yeah, I've got it up on my screen. Is there something you guys wanted to look at or see?
What were they doing, Joan, in the Summers, Connecticut? They were working on something.
Did you look at it?
Let's see.
While we're looking that up, I also gave them props for doing recent work. They have a lot of ongoing work. At least a few of them hadn't done anything, you know, at least hadn't listed anything in like 5 or 6 years. If you just look at the sheet here, it's July 2022, January, and there's at least one 2024 project. There's a couple of these I penalized for not having done recent work, but I gave these sort of an extra point for being current.
So there's a lot of stuff as far as athletics, and there's the Farmington Country Club, there's high school things in Connecticut. They did something in Hammonasset as well.
Yeah, they did a design or something for a community center in Summers, Connecticut, where they're working on.
Yeah, let me look at this.
We're talking about GWWO.
Yeah.
So are you looking at their, or are you looking at consultants' experience?
Oh, I don't.
Sorry.
know.
See, that's.
You might be looking at consultants, like,
That's the one thing you got.
That's the thing. I'm pretty sure, actually, this is consultant experience. I
you might be looking at
apologize.
CES or one of the
No,
consultants, but if you look at GWWO.
Yep,
and
yep.
there's nothing in Connecticut.
And it's all that Baltimore County or whatever.
Yes.
Right. That's right.
And the one thing too, Mark, maybe we could discuss really quick. To me, if they're just listing a bunch of projects without any data, it seems to me those, they were subs or they did something for the project. The ones where they actually have the photos and they're listing the cost and who the project, those are probably the ones they actually were in charge of, right?
Well, I don't know if that's 100% true, David. I think if there's more information, it's probably because they feel it's more relevant. So if you look at the GWWO proposal,
Mhm.
they have, pages dedicated for certain projects. And then they have the Jefferson Memorial. They have a bunch of little things that are cool projects, but I'm not sure that they're relevant to what this is.
But some of them don't have a good breakdown of all of
Yeah.
their listings, and they'll still say, Madison, Connecticut Community Center, and there's real no, like, what did you do? Clearly, you weren't the problem.
Yeah,
Well, the architect, they more than likely were the prime.
Yeah,
And I would spend more of my time focusing on the architect's experience versus the consultant's.
no, I'm not talking about the consultants.
Right.
The architects will list some projects, right? Just list a bunch of names, then they'll have a breakdown. You know what I'm saying, of the ones they really want to show us as.
Yeah, again, we'll do that too. The
Yeah.
ones that we think are really relevant and in close proximity to this type of a project, we give you all the details, and the ones that are like,
So
so
Mark, in the.
Yeah, there's-
This Town of Summers Department of Public Works, pre-design for Summers Community Center. That, I guess.
the current workload, okay.
oh, those in the current, yeah.
On that sheet you have up, it's the under GWO, are they the architect, were they the architects? Yes, so the ones here are definitely.
Yeah.
We could use those as definitely.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the ones that are listed here, definitely.
So Mark, maybe you can help clarify something in my mind. When you rank them, you're taking the averages and then averaging those.
Yeah, we're taking, so for example, for experience, We're taking the sum of the 7 numbers divided by 7,
Yeah.
giving an average.
So we're naturally, I guess the reason I asked that is because we're naturally weighting past experience more heavily than approach.
Yes.
And in my mind, I sort of flipped the two. Like I cared more about how they were approaching this project than I did about them having this exact project on their resume. So not having, if you've done the same kind of things, but you had a really cool idea about what to do with this building, I found that very valuable. I didn't find it as valuable if you built a bunch of boring looking community centers that would naturally give you a very high experience ranking, but they all look like boxes and they're not very exciting. So like that to me, I'm trying to reconcile what is valuable to us as a group. If
I would say, AJ, they're both valuable. And here's what I'll
yeah,
say.
I just don't know if one's more valuable than the
Well, again, when we sat and we went through this evaluation before we made it public, and we issued the RFP, my opinion, and not just me, but the opinion of others that do this, having the requisite experience is the most important thing. They're all talented designers. Architects are they're all great architects. That's what they do. That's what they're trained. And you could take a building and show a really cool concept and approach to that building, having never designed a community center before. You can't. That's what they're trained to do. But if you haven't designed and programmed a community center, they're just different uses. Again, I go back to the house analogy. If I want to design an architect to design me a house, I don't want an architect that's designed a bunch of industrial buildings. He can come out and show a really cool design, but if you don't know how to.
Yeah, I totally agree, but I don't want to discount the fact that some may be more creative firms than others.
And this is where you can have great experience and your
Yeah.
approach is low because it's like, you're not really doing anything that's inspiring.
Right.
That's absolutely, and that's why it's still part of the map. And, if you have enough of that, right, that's going to knock down your experience. You're not going to get, as high as a score.
Right.
And you may lose out on getting shortlisted. And by the way, even if you're good enough or you skirt by enough to get the shortlist to the interview, when they come to the interview, it's almost like a clean slate.
Let's go.
And if you see a very uninspiring concept during the interview, then you can cut them off immediately. Not, just because we're going from shortlist or qualifications to shortlist doesn't mean they're hired. There's still another phase in this process.
Right.
And if you don't like the approach, even though they had great qualifications and their qualifications and kind of got them to the next step, they can get cut first on the next round.
So they're going to come with a pretty fleshed out concept of what they're thinking
Yes.
to the
They
next,
should.
the
Yeah.
shortlisted group will.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a job. They should come with it, having done a little.
Well,
more.
I'll qualify by saying this, most firms will do that. There are some firms that will come to the interview and not show you a concept. They'll show you an approach to a concept. And they'll show you what we did in Rocky Hill or Branford or Wyndham or somewhere else. And because some architects are reluctant to show you a design, that you may sit there and say, oh, that's ugly. And guess what? You're going to bounce them because you don't like the look of the building.
Right.
And so the counter to that is the architects will say, you know what? I don't know what you want. I know how much you could spend, but I don't know what you want. So I'm not going to show you a design. I've seen firms lose jobs because, they came in with a concept. I might have thought it was cool, but everybody else, that's an ugly looking building. I can't imagine that in my town. Done, out.
Right.
And other firms are like, you know what? I'm not going to show you a design. I'm going to show you how we get to a design. And some of the things we're thinking about with Madison and some of the characteristics of Madison, and here's how we're going to blend this, that, and the beachscape, the historic downtown, and we're going to come up with a concept that you're going to love if you hire us.
Right.
But it does point out, AJ, that we among us, we value certain aspects higher than you value an aspect creativity higher than maybe someone else who would say, no, I want to count the community centers because that's the most important thing they're doing, as opposed to, hey, they're able to do a full design. Someone else might have a different, pick the number one for a different one. What we hope to do is balance that among the seven of us, scoring 7 different perspectives. We're gonna come out with, I hope we just don't come out with something that's mediocre. But we will be able to identify the architects that have the most talent and the most experience folks.
Yeah.
I'm hoping
Makes
for
sense.
that. That's what I'm going for.
Well, saying that, then I'm kind of concerned about some of the outliers then, because it's such a differential between some of the rankings that it literally, the outliers are that has driven the scoring to the top, for the top 4. So that's a concern I have on that right now. So, but let's continue. Let's look at Lothrop. Is that how they're pronounced?
I mean, so Mark, just before we move on, so is it a benefit to have everyone kind of look at the experience that they, the reviewers of GWWL and see if they want to reevaluate their number?
Any one of these.
I mean, independently later, I'm just saying.
Yeah, any one of these can be re-reviewed and updated. Listen, the reality is ideally we'd like to do this tonight, but if for some reason these needs to go beyond tonight, that's okay too.
Yeah.
So let's keep going.
You know,
If we keep going, maybe if we have enough time at the end, we can take some amount of time at the end. If anybody wants to change a score, note it on the way down as we're doing it and give it to Mark at the end of the after that period, and we'll see if that affects anything. And that would have to be before we actually select.
and Joan, you're the only voting member that's not here, right? I think.
Correct.
Okay, so then you could just email me any changes that you may want to make to yours.
I also
Sure.
noticed that you didn't fill in past performance, so that's modifying.
Yep.
our rankings as well.
Yeah, well, yeah. There's some,
Adjusted the averaging, right?
what's that?
If it-
It did,
They're
yeah.
not zero, you're not, you didn't put them in zeros, you just. average to
They're in as
6.
nothing.
They're in as
so
nothing.
It's nothing across the
It's
board.
it's the total divided by
Yeah.
6 rather than.
Exactly.
total divided by
Much less than 5.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, you know what? I'm gonna have to, right now it's actually 7, so I'm gonna have to correct that. Because I wasn't sure if reviewer 1 was going to provide a number at some point. But
So it's just averaging a 0 in for everybody,
yeah, right now it's a 0 for everybody.
but it's probably, doesn't change the numbers.
It doesn't change anything.
Yeah,
Right.
as long as everyone's got a 0.
Right. All right, Lothrop. So Lothrop, again, this is one where there was an outlier for Lothrop. They had, so they're 6th, right? So they had a Stratford Community Center.
That's not a study, right? I believe.
Feasibility study for renovation addition to community center, add a multi-purpose community room, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. That was 2 years ago. Smaller in size. only
Yeah, I saw a lot of
Much
additions.
smaller.
Yeah, what else?
Yeah, New Milford Library.
New Milford Library. They had Hastings on Hudson was a community center for 5.6 million in 2007. That's probably $15 million today.
No, that's-
Yep.
So they had 2 community centers. They had, municipality work, town hall, library,
Yeah, I hammered.
barn, library.
GWO, they're probably cool.
I didn't like their presentation, it was too long.
They're very cobbled together.
Yeah.
There's a difference between writing a good book,
Yeah.
presenting a good book, and actually building a good building.
Yeah.
Lothrop, I think they aced the good book size, especially by size.
It's
Listen, whoever-
it's measured by weight.
Whatever companies bookmark the PDFs, that was awesome, because
Yeah.
most of them did not.
Yeah.
You get extra points for that?
Yeah.
I know we talked about the outliers, but Lothrop actually has an outlier on both sides. It has a high and a low.
Lothrop?
Yeah, so that's the kind of thing I think we rely on when we have 6 of us or 7 of us doing that if someone, on average, we're gonna do okay.
Yeah, again, this is where it's,
Yeah, it's like,
okay.
I've seen some of their work, because they're in the Greenwich area and I used to live in New Canaan. So I know some of these buildings. So I thought they did, a good job on the buildings that I have seen. And actually I saw pre-renovation of one and then post-renovation of one. And that was the Black Box Theater. And they did a very good job on that one. I used to work in that theater actually. In my old days. And it was that was a positive thing. And the thing is that I didn't see a lot of current the dates on the projects that were more applicable, so to speak. Do you know what I'm saying? So yeah, there's the North Stonington Carriage House. That's so.
Yeah, just this study from 2021 is the closest.
Yeah.
I don't know what they have for current workload.
Right.
Do you have their proposal in front of you?
Yeah, it's tab 6.
Last one, it's easy to find.
The Bible.
Yep.
Old and New Testament.
Right.
Yeah, I kind of got through that. Like I did it online. I'm like scroll. Okay, now I can look at something.
It is bookmarked, by the way, in the PDF, so.
That's always good.
I must admit, though, this company more than others, I probably went through this 3 or 4 times, looking at all their experience and their team and everything.
It was, I did too.
I was just trying to
Too
like,
much stuff.
I was, you know, when I was trying to like, just make sure I got it right. That, I think them and the next one we're gonna review are the 2 that I really like went through and really dug into a little deeper than others.
Yeah, their current workload isn't wildly impressive. A lot of envelope work, roofing stuff. So
Did they seem to have more in-house services, or was that just the way it was presented?
We got 1 million pages of the subs.
Well, they had a lot of.
No, but their first, it was like on page 7, their in-house services, which is basic and planning and sustainable design and interior and extended services. I don't know, yeah, there's the subs are the subs. I feel like there's one sub that's probably going to get this job no matter what.
Yeah, Lothrop just does architectural. They're not doing anything else. Everything else is from a consultant. So civil, survey, Fuss and O'Neill, E2 structural, landmark, E, and NASCO. So.
What are I saw listed on-call contracts with a lot of towns in Connecticut. What does that mean?
Like 10 days as needed.
So to do what? What kind of things?
No, it could be anything.
Well, for them, it's for design services. So we're on-call contracts as well. And it means if they have a project and they need a project management firm, they'll just go to us and say, okay, manage this project for us.
So they don't go through the interview?
They do that.
Small values.
Okay, so it's
Not-
all,
not-
that's what I
not
was trying to
huge.
figure out.
Like they wouldn't give you the Madison Elementary School is on call.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's little
No.
small.
Yeah, like the roof leaks at the arts barn, and you need to get an architect or somebody to design it.
Yeah.
They would just use the on call and give them whatever it takes to go design.
Mhm.
It's quicker than soliciting. So,
All right, anything else on Lothrop before we go to Newman?
They were local.
Newman's New Haven. Yeah, we're actually working with Newman right now on a project. Going pretty well. It's
They're the only ones that, okay.
So my only concern with them is it did look like their workload was currently high. Given what they proposed, the size.
Yeah, they didn't have, I didn't see a community center
No.
for their experience.
Yeah, it was more on the colleges. Do you know what I mean? So they did a,
They're a big education firm, independent schools.
Yeah.
a lot of private schools, right?
right.
So yeah, we're working with them right now at Hotchkiss
Right.
on a dorm project.
Okay.
Also, were the only ones that brought in a food services consultant. Which I thought maybe missed the mark a little bit on what was valuable to us like they were.
Well, there's the kitchen, if you know,
Yeah.
on the
Yeah.
lowest level, and there's discussion about there being not quite a, you know, commercial grade, you know, cooking program that you would need, you know, a $3 million, you know, kitchen and servery. But the idea was to have that kitchen refurbished in some manner for warming or lower level uses. The budget doesn't have a lot of money in there for kitchen equipment. But they probably saw that there was a kitchen component and said, oh, we'll carry a kitchen consultant.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
They did the Beachfield Library or something, right, too, I believe, new one,
Yeah, that's.
Yeah.
that's right.
Yep.
so that picture is.
Okay, move on to QAM. So again, QAM, you know, they listed the proposed new Madison Senior Center. It's really it's a community center. It's this concept. But they've done a bunch of other community centers around Branford, Rocky Hill, where it was a combo senior center, community center. Darien, Groton Senior Community Center, Wilton Community Center, Newington's. It's a municipal town hall and a community center.
Yep.
Like,
I think there's a reason they were number one on the list.
The only thing I gotta take off, Wyndham only paid 14 million for a brand new community center.
Yeah.
And 16 for a reno.
I'll bet it would be cheaper if we knocked Academy down and built a new building.
It's often easier to build.
Yeah,
And they get a pool. It was 14
And they
million.
had a pool too?
Yeah, it was just a couple years ago. Like, what the heck?
Yeah, well, in 2005, is that correct?
yeah, I don't know if that's right. No, Wyndham's is not 2005. If it is, it's a typo
Okay,
because we were involved with that project. It's within the last couple of years.
okay.
It has nothing to do with that.
But AJ, it's all about timing.
It was ticking me off. I was like, come on.
So I don't know if you remember this, you should, 2008, 2009, when the construction market tanked,
Yeah.
there were schools being built for like $1. You're getting $1.25 for every dollar you're spending, right? Because the market was crashing.
Yeah.
And
Everyone was looking for work.
Guilford built a gorgeous high school,
Yeah.
right? For like almost nothing, but a lot less. And people were using that as a benchmark or a reference for school construction. We're like, no. Time out. What happened when the economy tanked, you know, because that's just not reality. What's happening now, and it's more so than ever, is, you know, the COVID impact and the construction market hasn't really caught up with it, with the downturn. And things are way more expensive today than they were 3 years ago. Way more expensive.
Yeah.
And that project might have been bid around when COVID was like in its throes, and contractors were looking to just say, you know, keep the doors open. So
Right.
Okay. Good to know.
there's a story behind every
We still
number.
don't have a
It
pool.
didn't change the emotions I
Nice
had
to
when I
know.
saw
We
it.
don't have a place for a pool anyway, so
Sorry.
we put it.
Where are you gonna put the poll? Okay.
Dig out the gym.
All right, 2 a.m., you know, we get that. So
I would like to say though, QA, because I judged them, you know, I wanted to be pretty stern with them because they had such a head start. I expected that they would and would judge them if they did better than their original proposal, and they did, actually. I read their proposal about whether, you know, they're not gonna put the big atrium outside the building. They're gonna pull the elevator inside the building and make that and with that, then they have the ability to dig, or the impetus to dig out the basement and connect all 3 levels from the elevator, both sides of the 3rd floor and the first and second floor.
Right.
Down the basement, with a single elevator. So I expected more, and they did do more.
I particularly like their plan for continual reassessment of project cost at each step of the process.
Mhm.
I think they were big into like 3D modeling or something too, right?
Like
I know
laser
they
scan
all
buildings.
do it, but it seems everybody focus on that.
all right, Ronette Riley, this is a New York City firm. A lot of their their work is New York City based. They didn't provide a lot of detail in terms of pricing. We saw really one community center.
And they didn't even make it one of their highlight projects that. Well, right?
Yeah,
It's it.
the fact that they didn't really list times and pricing was a little concerning to me on my end.
Just felt we didn't have much work with it relative to others.
The only pro I have is they have one office dog. They mentioned that.
Oh, what?
They mentioned their list of staff that will be working on the projects. It's like one office dog.
Dogs if you want.
I'll bring Cookie to the next meeting. She's
Yeah,
lying
right.
next to me right now, so.
Yeah, my note on them was meh. Impressed.
What was the technical term?
Yeah.
I mean, period.
Okay.
Okay, Russell Dawson. I think they're an East Hartford firm. Again, yeah, not a lot, town of Windsor, but it was more engineering services for mechanical upgrades, housing work, school work.
Yeah, I didn't feel like they had a lot of experience with the community centers or really a lot at all.
Yeah.
Relative to others, I didn't see much vision in their proposal.
Right.
Generic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
here's what we can do and figure it out later.
Okay.
Okay.
They
Then
also
the
had
last
not
two,
assigned a team.
so Silver Petrocelli,
It's like, come on.
Petrocelli is having a lot of experience in community centers.
What's that?
This was much later in the evening when I was reading them, so I may have missed something.
No, they think they had one in Middletown and they're doing the study on one in New London, I think currently.
The one in Middletown was a school, an old school too.
Yeah,
right?
it's similar to what we're doing here.
Mhm.
yeah, so Middletown, I've got Town Hall, Municipal Center, Community Rec Center, New London, Senior Center, Woodbridge Community Center, small, but Killingly Community Center, smallish. Rocky Hill, this was kind of study.
Mhm.
They did not end up getting the job for this when it went to architect selection. Joanne, I've got that one, I think.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, some,
What, so,
No, I was gonna say the biggest comment I had is the designs felt very original to me, the stuff that they've done just felt like they didn't feel very creative for.
But I think is part of that due to budget though also?
I guess no. I mean, again, if we had a $50 million budget, we might have
No,
more.
I'm saying if you have a building
Yeah,
and the budget's $1 million and they did what they could with $1 million.
Yeah,
I
you
mean,
don't wanna
AJ
fall-
Right.
looked at
Basically
it.
knocked it out of the park for $1 million.
Yeah, exactly, and AJ's like, okay, like,
Some new windows and a paint job, got it.
I don't know, it's
Yes,
just,
but you're right.
Right, but it's,
Yeah.
I mean, but $50 million, $15 million is not insignificant.
oh,
13
no, I was just saying, what he's looking
Yeah,
at other projects
I
that have
get you.
done.
Oh, yeah.
When you look
Yeah.
at photos that they put in there,
Right.
I'm assuming the photos they're putting in is like their best work, like they're really proud of work. Maybe I'm wrong.
Right.
This is where you gotta read the details of what they provided for scope of services. A lot of them say, full design and construction, new construction renovation. Some of them are just NEP renovation, so it window replacement, roofing.
Yeah,
Honestly, the devil's in the details of, what the scope
Yeah.
is.
you ask for qualifications, right? So they're gonna put together their best qualifications they have for what we're asking for, right? So they're gonna show every community center they worked on, any architectural or historical building that they renovated. That's what we're getting.
And
Yeah.
I think they had probably one of the better narratives on renovations. And
Yes.
caveats and things to look out for and what to expect. So I did give them points on their understanding of renovation and technical issues with that, and also community outreach.
So I also thought they talked a lot about plans for the future, like designing a building that,
Yeah.
you know, if in 10 years you did want to add a pool on,
Right.
you wouldn't do something that would preclude that from happening. And they also mentioned our committee, which I think they were the only one that did. I gave them a little bonus for that.
They do have in-house, some of their engineers are in-house too, so,
Yeah. it's
that
somewhere
could
in
help.
there.
I mean, that could help offset why their costs are a little less, because they're not outsourcing some of those services, I don't know.
Mhm.
I think they definitely have their electrical engineer, I think maybe their mechanical is in-house too, I'd have to go back to the list.
Right.
But they definitely have some of those services they're self-performing, so.
I gave them.
Oh, here we go. Yeah, so, no, so it's mentioned, yeah, I think the only person they were subbing out was the structural engineer, and then the civil, and then acoustics and some sort of tech sound. So that's the other thing too, they added in subs for some of these that others didn't.
Right.
Yeah, that was.
Exactly,
Yeah, so if you're gonna build a theater, you're gonna need a sound system.
I mean, the acoustics guy and the tech person, right?
With it too, they also had some, I think the only ones that listed out, I'm sure they all have a grant, working with grant money experience.
Mhm.
So they listed out projects and projects that got certain grants, so.
It was definitely a very thorough
I thought
proposal.
it was.
Okay, and then the last one is Tecton.
They're too busy.
They're doing Madison schools.
Yeah.
Right, so I gave them extra points because there's some efficiency. I like the fact that we mentioned we're gonna make sure the automation systems and all that like jives for the town folks, like that felt, like an attention to detail that I appreciated. They do a lot of schools. Seems like that's their bread and butter, is not community centers, but schools.
Yeah, we had two here. They're West Hartford and Hartford.
So they're working on the new Elmwood Community Center
Mhm.
study. Is it a study still, Mark? I don't know what stage it's in.
Yeah, it's still in feasibility.
Yeah.
But it's potentially a very large project,
Yeah.
$66 million.
West Hartford Community Center design fee was very low too. I don't know if that was a study or if that was, they didn't actually do the building.
No, that's just for the study.
That's just the study. Okay, that's why.
It's actually pretty high.
Oh, it is.
For study, but it's also $66 million potential project. So-
Yeah.
One of the things I noticed, I looked at I don't know if you can see it as well in the online, but in the book, that the community centers they did, there was a lot of steel and glass, which I don't think would fit with what we were doing. They were doing community centers. This is the case where the pictures they gave were steel and glass. Big
They're new
atriums
construction
connected-
though.
Pardon?
They're new construction.
They
I
were,
really like the look of the glass with the brick building, like a little juxtaposition there.
I,
The
Yeah,
new
they
building.
did-
I
they
think
did
that looks
too.
so nice.
I didn't, so. So that's why we balance each other out.
but a lot of that is driven by what the community or the committees want.
Right.
They want to look at the budgets.
Mhm.
It's
That-
not uncommon to create curtain wall on an old building, and mix the old with the new.
Yeah,
Yeah, and that's what I was saying earlier, is that community might have wanted something like that. The Apple glass box, attached to an old historic building.
Yep.
And this is exactly right. You were like, I don't like that. Well, that's exactly why some firms don't want to show you design, because they don't want to get kicked off immediately, because they haven't really had a conversation about what the town really wants, what you are all looking for an aesthetic.
I still rated them highly.
Yeah.
Individually.
Oh,
They have a lot of experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But these
Yeah.
projects they have are not significant projects.
To the same economies of scale of the school, but also they do have a decent workload now. Exactly. Can they handle it? But that's a question for you.
Yeah, well, again, that's, they're proposing a different team, right? I mean, they're a pretty good sized firm. So if you have 4 people working on a school project, you got 4
they
of them
actually have
working
the
on.
same
This
team, I think. Didn't they propose the same team? I think.
Might be the same principal, but I don't know.
A couple are the same subs because the subs reference that they were working on the Madison school, so clearly they're together.
No, I
50% of the
think
subs in all the.
Same team.
You know what I'm
as-
saying?
Yeah, they have the same team. the
For
leader.
in-house or the leadership?
Inside, the leadership, I think
Oh.
there was,
Yeah, well, the leadership for sure. They'll be the bridge between the two teams, but the job captain to the production staff. Will be different.
Half of us could see that as positive, the other half could see that as a negative. right?
Because one of the, we talked about this, the deadline for the schools is a hard and fast deadline. Our deadline is, if we miss it by 2 weeks, but if you miss a school by 2 weeks, you're in trouble.
Mhm.
so is the principal in charge, the senior project manager, and the architect design are all the same. Jeff, Justin, and Rachel.
Good to know.
So where are we now?
Yeah, what's next?
That's all of them. We've gone through and discussed all of them.
Mark, I sent you an email.
Okay.
I'll
So
send you one too.
I've seen at least one other email.
So is our next step to look at 1 through 5 or 1 through 4?
Well, I think he's got to.
Yeah, so let me go ahead and change.
Big reveal?
So the other thing too,
Yeah.
though, Mark,
I
if
had
you
a
don't,
couple of
if,
small tweaks. I'll
if
send
you don't
right now.
add numbers to.
Well, if you're here, it'd be easier if you could just write it down on the sheet
Yeah.
and then just hand it to me. Only because now I've got a little
I don't have
monitor.
Excel.
Want me to do that instead of emailing?
I can look here.
Yeah, you can email me later, but
Do you need this old timey?
Well, I can-
Yeah, how does that
I
thing
can
work?
just take my contract
Mark?
elements and make them equal to what you put in there.
I noticed I was the only one that came in here without a screen.
This is.
Joan, I'm emailing you right back.
But for me, it's-
Okay.
It takes me so long to work on this.
Oh, I didn't have time for the highlight. I gotta go.
Then reviewer one should,
We need to fill in that
Yeah.
Yeah, it's-
column.
you should. It just. for completeness.
reviewer one, please fill in the column in past performance projects.
Because that certainly will weigh on that a little bit. Column 2.
Oh, I should have put that in there. I apologize.
So the other thing you could have done, you ever like knocked out the low and the high and then averaged the rest?
Yeah, that's a thought.
Well, if you have a real big outlier low
Oh, if they're real close.
or a real outlier high, at least it knocks them out.
Oh, you're saying in each individual.
Yeah, every single one, just take out the high and low. and-
Perfect. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
I mean, it's just equal to everything else.
'Cause I think if you get into the experience of projects of similar size and scope, if you just look at that title, that the projects that they've worked on in the past should be similar to ours, right? Similar scope and value, right? And not all of them were equal.
Right.
And some of these scores look like they're kind of making them look equal.
I think that's the.
That was the barometer,
Right.
for me, when I looked at that, is
Yeah,
centers and then
Yeah.
similar budget.
Correct.
Right, if you did community centers for $50 million, okay, great, the community centers, but that's not quite us.
Right. So, and that's what I actually went through all 10 of them and just did column 1.
Oh,
I just did experience and budget all 10.
So from
And
there
then I went
to
to the
there.
next one,
Yeah.
just
Okay.
to break down, try to
Okay, thank you.
independent mind.
After the first one, I did the other three at the same time, so I was like, oh my God, I can't scroll this 10 more times.
It took me hours on Friday. Hours.
It's
I said,
Yeah, there was-
I
think-
Forever.
a couple cups of coffee.
I think I went through them at least 2 or 3 times and I must have changed that spreadsheet every time. I kept going back and forth and back and forth. It was,
I agree, Joan. Like the ones kind of in the middle of the pack for me, I wanted to really make sure that I looked at everything that they had done, like 2 or
Right.
3 times.
Yep.
Yeah, like
I mean, some of them I was just, there was,
to get to.
there were some that were just like, okay, they're pretty solid. I'm good with what I'm looking at. And then I tried to, the thing I had the most difficulty with was the organizational team structure, because I felt like almost everyone was fairly impressive. There was maybe, length of time, but to me, that may be looking at, okay, that's a different perspective and a newer perspective versus something So that was a tougher one for me to kind of balance out.
No, I agree, Joe. Like all of my numbers for all of them were very similar. I mean, if they had an architect and they had a project manager and they had all of the sub-consultants to fill the roles, then they've kind of met.
Yeah.
They met the need, right?
Right, right. And that was the thing.
I just scanned it, but I did scan some of them, like the projects that person had worked on were like a ton of schools or a ton of government buildings, but more community centers and then kind of speaking to the experience.
Right.
But you have to have, you know, community center experience to be able to show your people that they were there, right? So
Yeah,
some are grasping at straws to show
Right.
their experience to get you to, you know.
right.
Yeah, look at all
Like
the
Mark said,
experience
you
in
don't actually
themselves.
have to do one to
Yeah.
design.
Right.
Like for BH&A, they've done a few recently, and here's our people, and they were there.
Right.
Mhm.
So it's
Yep.
easy.
I suppose some of the others that just really gave you all the info on their subs, like
Mhm.
Yep.
essentially the architects become more of a project manager, not really much to decide.
I was looking, a lot of them are using, is it Kohler, Ramen, or
Ronan.
Common for
mechanical? Yeah.
And then
Ronan.
Langen,
Well, I mean, they have significant, like, work that they've done, their projects. It's not a ton.
Fussing and yelling.
Yeah.
So a lot.
I mean, I've used them.
yeah, that was, it was so funny because I'd start going through and I'm like, wait a minute, I've seen these people before.
Yeah, you see the pictures.
I think they were
Pictures.
from New York.
One guy saw his picture, it's
I know.
100 times.
I think 8 out of 10 are using the same structural engineer.
Yeah.
Yep.
Literally using every single one.
Yeah.
And the cost estimator is the same on a bunch too.
Mhm.
CES or CCS.
Yeah, this guy, Brooks Acoustics, I saw him a lot.
Yep.
This is him.
No, somebody else, there was Tecton was using Tochi or TOCCI for acoustics. So.
Kavanaugh Tachi.
Ah.
Kavanaugh Tachi. Acoustician. Yeah,
Oh.
they've been around forever.
It's interesting. Structural engineering. They only have like staff, 2 guys.
This one, MHAI.
Yeah.
I'm like,
They
oh,
were
how is that
together.
bad?
Yeah, this guy, I saw this guy's picture, this is one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw his picture 100 times. I'm like, I guess we're working with this guy.
That was interesting. A bunch of them are not concerned about the structural integrity of the buildings. You notice that? It's such that the way those buildings were constructed back then, with the steel. and
Yeah, I saw
concrete,
that.
They're built for, 150 years of use.
There's only one of these
You
subsections.
got 10 more years left.
You just can't take a wall, you just can't take a wall down, Jim.
It's a brick house, so to speak. So- And it has survived. I think the front actually is done better than sometimes the back that was built later.
So I received, I think, 4 updates. Any other updates to any of the scoring?
I'm leaving mine alone.
I am too.
I'm leaving it too.
Okay. So, who wants to write these down? So I'm just gonna go from alphabetical, starting with BH plus A. I'm gonna give you the score. And then I just want to confirm the rank, okay? So BH plus A is 79.43. GWG Kama is 51.43. GWWO is 70.57. Lothrop is 60.57. Newman, 59.14. QA&M, 80. Ronat Riley, 47.86. Russell Dawson, 35.43. Silva Petroselli, 70.29. Tecton, 72.86.
8-6.
86.
you.
So I believe
What was GWG comma? I'm sorry.
GWG Kama was 51.43. 5, 1, 4, 3.
So we got 1, 2,
We're gonna get down to 4.
Didn't you
Yeah,
change
so-
the ranking of the top 4?
Yeah, so what I have for, I have QA&M 1,
Yeah.
at BH plus A 2,
Oh, go to second.
I have QA&M 1, again, ranking highest to lowest. QA&M 1, BH plus A 2. 3 is Tecton. 4 is GWWO. 5 is Silva Petrocelli. 6 is Lothrop. 7 is Newman. 8 is GWG Kama. 9, Ronette Riley. 10, Russell Dawson.
Didn't change anything.
Didn't change anything.
That's interesting.
Except I think 4 and 5 might be closer together.
yeah.
Those are literally neck and
Those
neck.
would be-
Are we dead on 4 or could we go to 5 interviews? Since there seems to be a fairly significant gap between 5 and 6.
You can interview 5, it's just another hour to the day.
Because they are fairly neck and neck. Which I can point 0.3 difference about.
I'd say interview them both or get rid of them both. Just because the difference between.
That's the
4
other
and
option.
5
You,
and
you
1.
could go and interview 3, which would be
Yep.
Tecton,
Because
GW.
the differentiation here, 80 versus. Was it 80?
So the
80 versus
QA&M, Tecton, and BH plus A could be those 3. But
If
I mean,
we,
the only thing is with the Silver Petrocelli, with the experience, did that outlier number 4 get changed or is it still there?
still there.
So that's a real outlier for them on.
But do they have the same outlier? No. they don't.
No,
Yeah,
the numbers at the top for GWO are, I mean, there's a couple higher outliers, but they're not, it's fairly consistent.
Mm.
Yeah, I don't have that in front of me. I don't have a Mark, can you just see a copy of that?
They're getting killed again on the second one too, the past performance.
Hold on, I just give me 1 second there, Joan. I just want to open up something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's 2 columns that are based on 30, 40, 25 points that before.
I really like Silver Petrocelli. That was one that I really thought. we were talking
No,
about.
but there's some that's just based off of experience.
know.
They actually have done a community center and
Right.
they're actively working on a study for the New London one, which is a substantial building. It's not,
Right.
so.
Joan, you want me to share my screen?
If you'd like to, yeah, I just didn't, I'm trying to track.
Else too.
But not GWWO didn't yet. Oh,
So here's what we're talking about is, everybody else is in the 20s and reviewer 6, I believe. Yep. Rank them pretty low. So, but again, this is everybody's individual opinion.
No, I agree. But I mean, that's the same reviewer has GWO really high on experience also, so higher than the average.
So does everybody want to just go for the 5? Is it rather than cut out the 2? I think because I think there's people that really are, thinking that GW and Silver Petro, but there seems to be a positive on both of those.
If we say we can either interview them both or cut them both, I'd say that cutting Silver Petrocelli is a bad idea considering they are also the lowest bid. So.
They had a pretty good.
Well, and
If we want to include Silver Petrocelli, I imagine we should include the other one what's the other one that's?
Yeah, I agree with you. Include one, include the other.
GWWO, I believe. is 4.
GWWO, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you took
You're
the
welcome.
price, Mark,
Yeah.
can you easily see how those twos, what their rankings would change if the price wasn't a part of the equation? that easy for you to do on your spreadsheet there?
No,
No,
All zeros.
it's easy more to end today. Who's gonna make the playoffs?
right.
Um,
No,
But
it's
if-
just,
but
I
if you
hate
were
for
to
us to
take-
make our decisions strictly on.
Yeah, I don't think he's saying that's the only reason to bring him in. I think he's just saying that's a good reason to.
No, I know, but I'm just saying maybe it would change things if you took the price out of it. Then maybe.
Well, it also would change if we change the 4s to a
Yes,
20 or something higher.
right.
Right.
yeah,
Right.
there is a significant difference between those two, 4 and 6, from a fee perspective,
Right.
more than double.
From which ones?
So the Petroselli,
In GWWO?
Wow.
wait a minute, hold on. Yeah,
Yeah, almost
Almost double.
500,000, let's put it that way.
GWWO.
yeah.
Is that because
Yeah,
one
but
was
the
more
other-
honest
the
and
other
the one
ones were-
lowballed? Or is that because, I mean,
But that
because,
means-
You know, everybody, Joe, everybody bases their fees how they want to base their fees.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're not in the business of questioning how or why.
I think we need to be.
Well, so we had 10 submit, and if we take 5, would that be the worst thing in the world?
No, it just adds, again, it adds about another hour to the overall day because we usually give them, 30 minutes to interview, 15 minutes for Q and A, and then 15 minutes to deliberate and talk. So that's okay. I mean, we've got the
We
time.
blocked off 8:30 till some indeterminate time.
Right,
They're both qualified, I think. We would just have them both come.
I would just space it out enough throughout the day so that our brains can process one from the other
I know,
without
that's
getting.
what it is.
I took the day off, so I'm gonna physically be there.
You just be
2
prepared
hours
for a
I'm
full
gonna,
day.
like-
I took the
That,
day
it's,
off.
it's a full
What day
day.
is it?
Yeah. It's like going to work.
This is
before the days of-
I structured my schedule around this.
Yeah, it was before.
Well, when you get 5 proposals for an hour, everybody telling you the same stuff, you kind of forget what one person told the versus the other. So that's the only.
Yeah, that's why, again, that's why to do it all on the same day, but yeah, 5 is a closer to burnout than 4.
Just spread it out so there's good discussion time and note taking.
Well,
It'll be fine. Again, you're gonna see a lot of cool creative ideas. My experience personally, when you interview, owners reps, architects, or construction managers, if we ever get to that phase, the architect
If we ever
interviews.
get to it?
What's that?
Did you just say
When?
if we ever, oh,
Well, no, we haven't decided if we're gonna go construction manager versus
Oh.
GC. So, but if you do decide to go the construction manager route, there will be another round of interviewing. The architect interviews honestly are interesting to me because you're seeing creativity, you're seeing ideas, you're just not listening to numbers and reports and
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. So
Go for it.
if you're gonna have 5 interviews, let it be the architects because you're gonna see some really cool ideas. And I always say lean towards hearing more ideas because you can always retain those ideas and share ideas. I saw this and I like that concept,
mhm.
so.
Yeah.
It's a bad thing.
are there anybody, does anybody believe one of those 5 doesn't belong? Anyone, not just the 2 that we talked about again. Are there any objections to the top 5? So if we interview all top 5?
Matches my top list.
Yeah.
That's just my.
And conversely, is there anyone who objects to any of the 5 that have been eliminated and says they absolutely should be in? Anybody have strong feelings about the bottom 5?
No objection.
Yeah,
I think we're done.
yeah.
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
Yay, I might get to eat before my next meeting.
Well, there's a couple
I'm roasting a chicken in the other room and it went off and I'm like, oh my God, I just wanna.
Sounds like we all get to eat after this.
Yeah.
Tuesday the 24th.
Tuesday?
Tuesday the 24th is our interview.
Joe, are you gonna make a motion? Do you
Oh,
make
yeah.
a motion for the 4 firms to be
okay.
invited to interviews?
Here we go. This is first. John, I'll use you. Can I make these as chair motions or do I need someone else to make a motion here?
It can be either or. Do you have the list? Do you know the top 5?
I have the top 5.
Cool.
I'll make the chairman will make a motion that we schedule for interviews, BHNA,
Mhm.
GWWO, Silver Petrocelli, Tecton, and QA&M.
I will
Is that correct?
Yep. I'll
Yeah.
second that if no one else has. I couldn't hear. Sorry.
Any further discussion on that? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous? Now the date, I think we should, we need to schedule the date also. And I didn't see in the minutes that we had it, we actually had set this date as a, but the date would be,
No, it's in the schedule that we approved, which was the 24th.
the 24th.
The global schedule for the year that we approved had that
Okay.
specifically in.
So the interviews will begin at 8:30 here in, I believe, here in this room.
In
At
person.
8:30 a.m. and we'll go through some until complete, I guess is the best way to do it. And the only thing that that we need to discuss, there, I believe there was, and we don't have to identify, there were some who could not, who may or may not be able to make that date. So this would be an in-person meeting. Is there anyone who would request that it be a hybrid meeting? So everybody's going to be here. Okay? So then we'll also go down as an in-person.
I mean, I guess with that in
I-
mind. do
I
we
would re-
contingency plan, someone gets sick or something and
Yeah,
needs to be home, does it need to, do we need to decide that now, so it's set up in case we need it?
That's a good point.
Jacqueline, do we need to decide now if
It's a
it has to be, if it's a hybrid? If someone, say, gets sick, because considering the time of year?
We didn't have to do kids.
Well, the meeting schedule is already set, so I guess we would consider it a special, but also members can still Zoom in. I could still offer a Zoom link to members and not necessarily a hybrid if that was. Yeah, I guess the committee would just need to decide there what they wanted to do with that.
Is that satisfactory to everyone?
I think that-
So it will be an individual Zoom as opposed to a hybrid. So it would be people could come. It will be a special meeting, it will be announced. Anyone could come and sit in if they like. And then one person would Zoom in. Okay? And
And
so
once,
we all agree on that, so, okay.
and I could request again, if we could record it for later posting so that the community can see the interviews and our deliberations, because I think with this center, it's such a huge event for the town and for most of the people within the community. I can understand we don't want to really do hybrid because then the people next can watch what's going on and can kind of feed off that. But I think it's fairly critical for the transparency and, having been on the Board of Selectmen when this was debated for years and years and years, people will create conspiracy theories that aren't there. I have to say, to put it nicely, and they go crazy on Facebook, and then all of a sudden there's something going on. And I think if they can see the interviews and the deliberations, that stops that from happening. So would be my request.
I have no objection, but Mark, is there a downside to that?
I'm sorry to,
To record for posterity, not to broadcast or?
no, it wouldn't be the first time. In fact, I was part of an interview that was in videotaped, and it's quite honestly great to see the feedback and the discussion. So
Yeah, okay.
it's been done before.
Do we have to vote on this? No, probably not.
That's
Or
up to
maybe
you
we should.
for the town.
Can we add as an addendum to the meeting as it's currently scheduled, that we record and post, but after the interviews are complete, when consequently after the selection is complete.
I think think because this is a special meeting, I don't, Jacqueline, can that be done under, I guess, liaison?
Yeah,
comment?
I don't think it needs to be, it's a motion. To be honest with you, I think we can just make sure that we're recording that day if the committee's good with that. I
Okay,
yeah, so I think we're good.
We could do an informal kind of poll if someone has a problem.
does anyone now have an issue with that?
No.
I didn't hear any before. So Jacqueline, that, if you could please add that to the meeting arrangements.
Yep, that sounds good. I'll create a schedule for the interviews and I'll send that to you, Joe, to review.
Do we have anyone have a preference in the order?
I go alphabetical order forward or back. Keep it simple.
I think when they're available.
Last, but just because they do have the most experience and I don't know if I want that coloring. I did this in that order. I read theirs last. So it didn't color my judgment of the other ones because I think they do have more background.
I think whether we do it forward or backward, I think they're gonna be in sort of in the middle. Is that, so that's, you're trying to avoid them being in the middle?
It's one possible way that we could arrange them, yes.
To be first, to be last.
To be last, yeah.
That also gives them, that gives them the recency.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd rather use,
Random or alphabetical?
random, yeah, alphabetical is, we can do it, there's a lot of ways to do it still. You can do it by you can do it by the second letter of the name, but why don't we just do it?
Well, so
Why don't we do it
I like
by-
say GWWO, QA&M, Silver Petrocelli and Tecton.
I'm okay with that.
Or we could just let them sign
Tecton's gonna be last then.
And we take the responses in the order they were received. Whoever answers first gets their first choice.
I kind of like that.
That's another option.
Ooh, there you go. I like that one. If they're efficient and they can focus, then they'll get in there.
Then they can pick their spot.
That's gonna take some
Okay.
back and forth schedule.
So you okay with that, Mark?
Oh, yeah, that happens too.
Or they could leave in slots.
So what other times, what's the first time for the first interview?
8:30.
8:30 is the
I
first
thought we
interview?
were here at
Wait,
8:30,
no,
9
no.
o'clock is,
8:30 is when we meet.
Okay.
It will be, I believe we said 9 o'clock will be the first.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be 9 o'clock,
Or
10
8:30,
o'clock.
Yeah. So 9, 10, 11, 12.
Well, one. Okay, are we not breaking for lunch
I
or?
don't know, why are we
or
here
we got
after?
rest
I get 5-10 minutes.
Pardon?
Why are we coming a half an hour before?
So
the
AJ
first
actually
meeting?
shows up on time.
I knew that was coming. So I should have expected.
We're gonna have a bunch of stuff that we're gonna hand out. It's good to get here half an hour early just to allow for people that may show up a little bit late.
It's never late,
But-
why are you guys picking on?
I wasn't pointing to AJ. Guilty conscience made it clear.
Come on, we were getting in early here, guys. Let's.
I guess I want to make sure that there's no break, half an hour break for lunch or anything. We're gonna
Yeah,
wait for it.
that's, I don't know. What do you think?
Can we
That
bring
would
it-
probably maybe see 3 and then a break and then 2. Just so that we have,
You feel the last two before that 2 o'clock slump starts hitting you. You gotta get some sugar into your blood.
Yes,
yeah,
Yeah.
We're doing 9, 10.
9, 10, 11,
And then 1 and 2.
and then we can do either 1 and 2 or 12:30 and
1:30.
1:30.
yeah, 12:30, 1:30. I would want.
It'll take half an hour for lunch.
Okay.
It'll be a little more than half an hour. Depends on when they leave.
Yeah, because when the 11 o'clock firm leaves at 11:45, then you have 45 minutes.
Okay,
Okay.
so I will motion,
Schedule. We start at 8:30, then we go 9, 10, 11, and then 12:30, is that
12:30 and 1:30.
12:30? And 1:30.
so I move to adopt the schedule that Joe just read.
Mark, it'll help us too if we get behind a little bit, it'll give us, we can
Yay, yay.
redirect to
Any,
12:30.
any discussion on that schedule?
Sounds good.
Thanks.
We have a second on the motion?
Yes, we do.
Second.
Cool.
And, so no further discussion, all approved? Aye.
Aye.
I,
Okay, unanimous. And
Jacqueline, do you want me to let the firms know, or do you want to let the firms know?
You can, if you want to do that, that would be good. Yeah,
'cause we put together a
that sounds great.
document. Okay.
So do we need a motion to bring in lunch?
Cookies.
Cookies.
Jacqueline, can we see if that's in the budget?
Sugar high.
Do we have anything else on our agenda?
Just, we would need to confirm I don't know if I think this is already confirmed, but the joint meeting with the Academy Community Center Advisory Committee. The 18th at 5:30, an in-person meeting in the Surf Club.
I don't know if I'm gonna be able to be there. Maybe I'm blurred to dealing with my destroyed condo.
Ooh.
But if I'm around, I'll go.
We can zoom you in, but it's kind of a meet and greet, so it doesn't really lend itself to Zoom. And I know, Joe, you said you
I
might.
like you. will not be.
Pardon?
Yeah, so unfortunately, there's been a scheduling conflict of my end that was unanticipated. I'm going to be covering for somebody who's actually having a C-section, so I'm babysitting the children for that person. So I hopefully will be there. I know most of the people on the advisory committee, but I hope to, and if maybe I'll bring my 2 kids and they can sit in and get some pizza as well as public.
It's open to the public. And this is also, if for those who may not be able to make it, now you're gonna be in Florida, but if you could come late to this meeting, this wouldn't be the end of the world if you came late to the meeting.
Are they gonna have the results of the
They're gonna have the
survey
results,
at that point?
yes.
So even if I'm not there, those results will be
those-
sent to me or something?
But there's also gonna be a time when we will probably, we will talk about what we're gonna do in the future also. You know, how we'll integrate their plan, what we will do in the future. I don't think there'll be any, I don't foresee any votes being taken on either committee, but there'll be a discussion on how we can work together.
This is the 18th, we said?
The 18th, and it's at the Surf Club, by the way.
It was an invite sent out.
Yeah.
Yeah, the invite sent out.
I apologize. I have to jump off so that I can go to the ladies' room before my next meeting. Thank you guys for everything, and we will see you hopefully on the 18th.
Thank you, Joe.
Bye, Joe.
Take care.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
We have a couple more things, and then I'd like to end with a moment of silence. I think it's, well, I thought it was more appropriate. It is not on the agenda, but. Any remarks from, no, there's no liaisons. Oh, there's Al. Al, you're a liaison? You're shaking your head no? Jacqueline, any other public, not still present?
Nope, we lost all the public members.
Okay, then again, I'll make a chair. Now let's do the moment of silence and then adjourn at the end of that and just leave the room silently, if that's okay. Because Noreen was she was a real force in this town for a long time. We were friends with the family. I worked with their sons, so they gave a lot to Madison over the years. She will be missed. So we'll go for we'll take the 1 minute and then leave silently.